Welcome to Smolder, the Professionals Applied AI podcast. I'm your host, James Wagenheim, and today's guest, Peter Haas, offers practical insights into improving lives through technology while avoiding economic and cultural catastrophe. Peter is a roboticist and a robotics consultant with Vairc, and as you'll hear, he has a ton of experience and expertise across a wide range of disciplines in the field. He shares insight into what is happening on the bleeding edge of robotics and physical and artificial intelligence. Peter has a tremendous positive vision for how AI and robotics can shape our future direction and lead to better outcomes for more people. He illustrates that the quality of our future is our choice. I left the conversation feeling a tremendous amount of enthusiasm for intentionally shaping the communities we live in. And Peter shares the state of robotics and a roadmap for abundance and security. It was one of the best conversations I've ever had, and I hope you enjoy it. And if you like this conversation, please hit the like button, subscribe, or find us on Patreon. Without further ado, here is Peter Haas. All right, Peter Haas, welcome to the Smolder podcast.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
I have so many questions for you. You and I have been friends for a long time, but I actually have never talked to you about technology. And when I think I called you up maybe 6 or 8 months ago and realized that you've been knee deep in this stuff for a long time now, and you had a really pretty cool background. I would love to just have you quickly say like where you were before you got into robotics and how you ended up in the field.
Yeah, sure. So I've got kind of a dual-pronged origin story. When I was in college, I took a year off, and part of that year, I worked for a NASA satellite mission called Gravity Probe B. It was measuring the warping of space around the Earth due to the Earth's gravitation.
Which is
that really
so
dope
cool.
thing.
That sounds so cool.
To do that, they had to make these really precise gyroscopes.
Okay.
And the gyroscopes were quartz spheres that were coated in a superconducting material. Okay. But the quartz spheres had to be almost perfectly round. So they made this robotic grinding algorithm to grind the quartz spheres within 40 atomic widths.
Oh my gosh. How is that even possible?
They're held by NIST as the roundest man-made objects. Like they've got them in a little display case, and like they're almost as round as a neutron star.
That's unreal.
It's incredible, and it just opened my eyes to what we can create with the assistance of robots.
Yeah.
And I, after that, did software for a little bit. I did mobile data consulting back when that was like WAP and like pre smartphone days.
Sure.
And like Palm Pilots and that kind of stuff. And then I got tired of that because I was basically like the only people using mobile data at that point were like bankers to trade on the golf course.
Yeah.
And so like I was like, what am I doing with my life? I'm just making rich people richer. And like so I took some time off and I traveled one way around the world, and I was volunteering for a bunch of nonprofits. And I kept seeing this problem with infrastructure, where basically like the equivalent of Engineers Without Borders, some well-meaning aid group would come in and they'd put an infrastructure system in a village.
Right.
And then they'd leave.
Right.
And then 6 months later it'd break. And nobody knew how to fix it. And the guy they trained to fix it would like have gone off to the city to get a better job because like suddenly he knew plumbing or electrical or whatever. So I realized you need to kind of support small businesses to provide these infrastructure services. So I actually spent 10 years where I started an NGO that was focused on supporting small businesses that were doing infrastructure work in Haiti and Guatemala.
Right.
That was great. And we had this whole design for extreme affordability portion of it where we'd bring down university teams and help like work on designs of products that they're working on. It was really great stuff. Really hard to do at charity. Like charity work is exhausting, and like raising money is brutal, and
absolutely
all of that. And after the Haiti earthquake, I was pretty burned out. We did a big response in reaction to that.
And so stressful.
It's very stressful. And I actually had the good fortune of getting invited to go to the TED conference. I was at the TED conference and they had the Google self-driving car. And this thing was doing laps in a parking lot at like
Yeah, I've seen
45
the
miles an
video.
hour. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And it was like leaving rubber on the road. And I was like, this is the future. Like, this is where things are going.
totally.
I need to get back into tech. I need to get involved in this. And it took a couple years. Like I found a guy working on LiDAR scanning drone, got involved with that project, helped him start up a company. And then I went to Brown and I managed the Humanity-Centered Robotics Initiative
Which was an
for about
amazing
5 years.
initiative.
It's an
Yeah,
amazing initiative. Lots of great research that we did. Really for the time, some cutting edge stuff with AI. Like it was pre Transformers, so very different approaches, but opened my eyes to the range of approaches in AI.
yeah.
And then from there, I did another startup, did some computer vision stuff, and then I landed on an opportunity to help build out the robotics ecosystem in the state of Massachusetts. And I spent a few years working on that and really just helped grow the number of companies doing robotics in Massachusetts, which is one of the biggest clusters for robotics
Absolutely.
in the nation. I got to work with the Mass Robotics Startup Accelerator. I got to work with established companies like Amazon Robotics and Boston Dynamics. So I got to really get insight into what's happening on the cutting edge of both robotics and physical artificial intelligence. And it's been a great opportunity. I'm really excited about where things are going, but I think we're at a very important turning point
Hmm.
where a lot of stuff that was science fiction previously is
Yeah.
becoming close to reality, and we need to really have discussions about that.
Yeah, one of the things that struck me in preparation for this conversation, I, went back and checked out some of your older discussions that you had online, which I thought were just amazing. And I encourage anyone listening to this to go check those out. One of the things I found really amazing is just how much insight you had, 2 years before large language models even hit the floor into what the landscape was going to look like. And one of the things that I thought would be really interesting in touching on is how rapidly I feel like we have adopted technology. And I thought that really great framing that you gave around horse-drawn carriages in the 1900s was a great way to sort of set the tone for the conversation. I wonder if you might give that example.
Yeah. So I mean, basically, we are at the edge of a sea change in robotics, where we're entering a new industrial revolution, and robotics is going to become like electricity in some ways. You're going to see it everywhere.
Yeah.
You're going to see lots of different things incorporating robotics. You're going to see robots all over the place, which have previously only been in lab situations. And I think that the example of the development of the automobile is a good example. If you
Hmm.
look at 1900, 1913
Yep.
in New York City, and in 1900, a parade for Easter, and it's all horse-drawn carriages. And like, there's one automobile, just kind of like as the like, ooh, that's a new exciting technology. Then by 1913, it's all Model T Fords.
Right.
Like, like there's one horse-drawn carriage left.
Yeah.
And admittedly, that's New York City. It's a microcosm of what's happening across the globe, but it is just an example of kind of what is about to happen with robotics. Like with the automobile, I mean, we saw infrastructure and licensing
Yeah.
and like policy and like roads being painted. I mean, like the first people who were painting roads were actually nonprofits
Right.
trying to address safety. Like it was like charity road painting um, before we realized like, oh, this is a really good idea. And I think you're going to see a lot of that with robotics. We're going to start to have things like robot driver's licenses,
Mm-hmm.
where if you want to teleoperate a robot, it's going to be like working a forklift. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna have to get licensed and certified to teleoperate that robot. So yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of change coming, and I think for some people, like I get into a lot of disagreements with Rodney Brooks, who is a famed roboticist, and I was
Sure.
at an event with him where they launched the Digit, and
Tell me a little bit about what the Digit is,
the
just for the
Digit
sake of everyone.
it wasn't the launch, it was the factory launch for the Digit. So it was
Mm-hmm.
when they announced that they were going to build a factory to build 10,000 of these humanoid robots,
Right.
which are made by Agility Robotics, 10,000 a year, and that was just going to be their initial production of the humanoids. And Rodney has been very vocal on his blog. He's got a great kind of prediction
Mm-hmm.
blog where he talks about what's going to happen in the industry. And he was famous, like he did iRobot. He was at MIT for a long time. He did Rethink Robotics, which made the Baxter, which is a very famous robot, and the Sawyer. And he's got a new robotics company that's making these incredibly intuitive cargo carrying robots. So I mean, like, very established resume. And he's been very vocal that we're not going to see humanoids in his lifetime.
Hmm.
Like we're not going to see massive adoption of humanoids everywhere.
Hmm.
I actually think that that is a bias based on his experience.
Sure.
That he has looked at these problems like self-driving cars,
Mm-hmm.
which have taken a long time to get to where they are. I mean, like people think that self-driving cars are this overnight success, or like past
Yeah.
decade or two success. I mean,
Yeah.
people have been working on self-driving cars since the 60s.
Right.
Like I mean, it wasn't as computerized. There's like
Of
a more
course.
guiding track and all that stuff. But
Right.
like people have been working on this problem for a long time. Uh,
Honestly, and I know it is a tremendously complex problem, but this is probably a side effect of me being a millennial. I'm like, where are they? Why aren't they
why
in
aren't they
every
here? Yeah,
driveway?
where's
Yeah,
our
they should have been here
jetpack?
20 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. So and that's Rodney's view.
Yeah.
Rodney's view is like, you know, we've been working on these things for a long time. These are harder problems than our AI
Yeah.
can solve.
Right.
My view is that, oh my God, we are sitting like moments
Yeah.
from the development of AI that can actually handle this
Totally.
from a like historical perspective.
Yeah.
Like we really are right on the cusp. It's like when they were tinkering with steam power in Greece, in ancient Greece back in the day.
Right.
Like they could have had a whole industrial revolution.
Right.
That they could have had like trains.
Right.
Like you could
The
have
course of
had
history would have been
the course of
massively
history would
different.
have been radically different.
Exactly.
We're on that same sort of precipice with
Right.
AI.
Right.
And it's not all about transformers.
Mm-hmm.
I think that in fact transformers are going to be viewed as the vacuum tube
Right.
technology. Like they're the like ENIAC taking up an entire room. Like, oh my God, I can't believe how many GPUs that required. I can't believe how much energy that was to make that model that like really kind of sucked. Like that's where we are right now. And I think that we are going to solve humanoids on the edge. We are going to solve self-driving cars. And I think it's going to radically transform our society.
Yeah. Well, oh gosh, there's just so much in what you just said that I want to go in 19 different directions because I really love to nerd out about what the future might look like. And it's obviously really hard to forecast. I do think I sit more in your camp, which is we're very much on the precipice and adoption is shockingly fast. I think that we as a species have shown a remarkable ability to just take things for granted, including technology. And I watch it just in my lifetime. When I think about the transition between, when my great grandfather, who was born in 1906, to the end of his life, where he, was trading stocks on AOL, or sorry, on his his computer connected to the internet through AOL and probably lost a ton of money on AOL. I just imagine what that might look like in terms of automation and also in terms of the medical field as well and robotics. And so I look at that and I'm wondering, what do you feel like in the next 5 years is going to be the most groundbreaking, sort of day-to-day change? Is it going to be that humanoid robot in our space, or is it going to be something a little bit more subtle that we take for granted, like an iPhone, for example?
I think the next 5 years, it's going to be the AI advance that permits that humanoid to get out there. So I think what we're going to find is that one, we're going to make smaller, cheaper edge models that don't require as much processing power for training or processing power for inference, that sit on device, that have privacy built in, that can be used for advanced planning and decision making, and that maybe, if we're lucky, I mean, fingers crossed here, have some sort of interpretability or transparency
Yeah.
in terms of logging. Like it all depends on whose approach you're looking at. There's some really interesting stuff being dropped recently by Liquid AI in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And Liquid they do models that fit into apps. So you can actually like make your custom Android or iPhone app and load a vision language model or a language model. They haven't dropped a robotics model yet, but I
You see it
think
on the
that's on
edge. Yeah.
like you're
You
gonna
could
see
see
that
it
kind of
coming.
stuff on the edge. I see
Definitely.
that coming. So yeah, I think that like you're gonna see more of that, and you're gonna see different techniques and approaches
Right.
there's an interesting researcher out of Tufts, Matthias
Okay.
Schultz. He's got this whole AI platform that's based on linear temporal logic that is for transparency and interpretability.
Yeah.
So you've got safety critical system like avionics or a self-driving car or whatever. You need a log. I
Right.
mean, this is like very basic principle.
You need a narrative to
You
understand
need
what
a
the heck is
narrative
going
to
on.
understand what happened when the
Yeah.
thing gets into an accident.
Exactly.
And so he's been working on products for that. There are other people in this space. Like I feel like we're gonna see a bunch of these advances come out, and I'm really excited about the neuroethological
Hmm.
approaches.
Never heard that term
So
before. What does that mean?
neuroethology is where you are looking at a biologically inspired neural network. So you're taking a
Ah,
connectome
yeah.
map
Yeah.
and you are like looking at the inhibitory and excitatory connections, reverse engineering that. And this is like old AI. This is like
Right.
AI from the 90s,
Yeah. Where they tried to model a brain and then
where
build the
they tried
brain
to
and they,
model a brain.
yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like a lamprey brain or like
Right.
a like very simple brain, like a worm brain, a nematode brain, like,
Mm-hmm.
but like they were trying to do that, and then they're trying to like reverse engineer how the connections were working. And actually, like some of the early AI examples, like some phrase spotting in like the little Tamagotchi toys that you
Mm-hmm.
could talk to, some of the early AI in the do you remember the Pod Racer video games?
I don't think I saw this era.
Well, like Pod Racer video games were like the Star
Star
Wars
Wars.
Anakin.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like so like some of that AI was actually based off some like neuroethology work. I feel like this connectome map thing has a future because we're getting better and better connectome maps. Like
Sure.
we're mapping entire brains of flies and
Right.
frogs and like
And they're
different
functional.
organisms, and they're not quite translated into AI yet. But I
Sure,
feel like
but
they're
they're functional in the sense that we can tell what operations are happening in that species.
in that suite. Well, we can tell where the connections are. We've got
Yeah.
very good AI assisted mapping
Yeah.
of where the neurons are going and what type of neuron it is. So I feel like this is a promising area. There's already like some of the liquid AI stuff is based on the principle of mapping connectomes. So they use C. elegans as a base map, which is again a worm. And then I feel like there's another company out of the UK that's doing a similar thing, and I feel like there's great promise here.
In a
And it's going
diversity of models for approaching AI.
in diversity and
Yeah.
like just getting past transformers as the
Right.
only solution.
Right.
So yeah, we are going to be faced with a big choice in the next 5 years, which is, do we want this to go utopian or dystopian?
Yeah.
And I feel like there are going to be some hard times ahead, just given the geopolitics of it all.
I know.
These are extremely powerful technologies for things like mass surveillance.
Right.
They're extremely powerful technologies for things like facial recognition, for audio transcription. Like when I was younger, back in the 90s, on a school trip to the Soviet Union,
Mm-hmm. Wow,
um,
that must have been a really original
it
experience.
was right before it fell. It was after Glasnost. It was in Perestroika, and like the exchange rate had just opened up, so like it shifted from fixed 5 rubles to the dollar to floating and jumped to like 35 and then 50 during the course of the trip, rubles to the dollar. So like
Wow.
we, we
Wow.
we were going there and we were suddenly like super rich kids. Like, I mean, it was crazy. And when I was there, I was talking to some people just about like the history and trying to do cultural exchange. And I had read a lot about the Stasi in East Germany. And
Right.
I mean, different country, GDPR, but
Right.
like, or not GDPR, GDR. GDPR is the privacy thing. If you look at the surveillance apparatus that was created under authoritarian regimes in the 80s, whether it be in the Soviet Union or East Germany or
Right.
anywhere in the Iron Curtain, the Stasi employed hundreds of thousands of people to spy on their neighbors
Right.
and would go out and destroy people's lives because like they had a rock poster up.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
any sort of like inkling that you were going to become a deviant problem within the society,
Yeah.
you would get crushed.
Yeah.
And when I did computer vision, I saw a demo from a Chinese company of this heat mapping technology that used facial recognition, social credit score, lists of people who had mental illness, lists of people who were criminal elements, and whenever those people started congregating, police could be sent over to disperse the congregation.
Yeah.
And I am concerned that the tools of AI for authoritarianism, plus if you throw particularly humanoid robots or weaponized quadrupeds, or like, I mean, in China they've got this wheeled rolling police robot that can drive. It's a monowheel robot. It can drive at like 45 miles an hour and tase people.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Terrifying.
it's
Oh
terrifying.
my God.
So like I feel like the tools for control are going to become so great that if they get abused, they could like create regimes that last for 100, 200 years
Yeah.
or more.
Yeah.
And I feel like on the flip
And it's
side,
funny. It's interesting. And I don't want to get too deep down this rabbit hole
yeah,
because I do have questions about this later. I think it's interesting that that would be a very stifling environment,
that'd be a very stifling
which is
environment
sort
for
of
creativity and economic
exactly.
development. And
It's
it would be a
created
North
out of
Korea
very
environment.
creative process, but it's
Yeah,
ultimately very stifling.
yeah. So I mean, I had a friend who used to work to get people out of North Korea, and basically,
Wow.
like after several decades of the same regime being in control, you start to get stagnation in innovation. You are stuck at a certain technological level,
Yeah.
and like things do not advance. Propaganda machine has to go even
Deeper.
further in
Yeah.
convincing people that they've got to like the rest of the world's starving and like they've got the golden life because they have like radios
Yeah.
like at a time when the internet exists. Like so yeah.
Well, one of the great examples that I've read about in history is China for about 1,000 years maintained a very insular culture where, foreign ideas and foreign concepts were really just unacceptable. And after being a culture that really exported a lot of really cool technology, they sort of turned inward for about 1,000 years before they became the culture and society that they are now. And I think there's a real risk that we sort of turn in on ourselves and use technology to
To
basically halt our
enforce that.
culture and
Yeah.
enforce kind of a very narrow way of living.
Yeah, and I think the counter to this
Yeah.
is that we will have the technological tools with AI and with robotics to be able to guarantee everybody
Mm-hmm.
gets incredible medical care and surgeries.
Right.
Everybody has access to cheap locally produced goods. Everybody has fresh food that is grown in like a vertical farm
Yes.
shipping container like 2 miles from their house. Like, I mean, like there's a counter narrative to this where things become so cheap to produce, they're basically free and everybody lives in a utopia. And I do want to focus on that word a second, the term
Mm-hmm.
utopia,
Mm-hmm.
because that comes from Thomas More
Mm-hmm.
writing a book that was kind of a satirical book that was looking at like this crazy society where the divine right of kings didn't exist.
Right.
And like I mean it's just like whoa, wow. And like I mean some of the principles in that book seem so far out, and yet they're like base principles
Mm-hmm.
for the society we live in today.
And we would hope to take those for granted for a while.
Exactly, exactly. Like we don't want to go back to divine right of kings.
Right.
Like so I think that the promise here is that we can raise the standard of living for everybody in the world.
Mm-hmm.
The danger here is that the cost of doing bad things is going to get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
So it only takes a few malcontents
Right.
to really cause a lot of damage. That's been kind of the trade-off with technology as it progresses. And I feel like robotics is very unique because it's a very democratic technology.
Right.
Like nobody like China right now makes more robots than anywhere in the world,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
uses more robots than anywhere in the world. The orders of magnitude, the difference in magnitude, not orders of magnitude because it's
Sure.
not orders of magnitude, but
Right.
there is a difference in magnitude of maybe 5 to 8x
Yeah.
what the US is doing in
In
terms of
terms of
robot
adoption.
annual adoption of
Yeah.
robots. And China's gonna flood the world with cheap robots, and like countries that are part of the Belt and Road Initiative are not
Right.
gonna have really a choice to say no to those robots.
Sure.
Those are gonna go out there.
Yep.
So I feel like we're entering a world where there are gonna be a lot of robots,
Yeah.
and there are gonna
And
be a lot
this
of cheap
touches on, and
robots.
maybe you're heading this direction, but you've used the term extreme affordability and
Yeah.
thinking about sort of those two major categories of big companies producing sort of ENIAC, almost like huge mega data centers with 50 gigawatts of power.
We're not
And
gonna need those.
yeah, and so what does extreme affordability mean in the context of technology and also adoption of robots?
Yeah, so I mean, I honestly think that the robots of the future are going to run not on an ESP32 that exists today, but the 2030 equivalent
Yeah.
of the ESP32, the $5 computer that like has very limited processing and resources. That's going to run a lot of robots in emerging markets.
Yeah.
We don't really grasp what the economic incentives here are, but like for people who live, I mean, half the world lives on less than $5.50 a day.
It's
Like
remarkable.
it's 3.8 billion, I think, or
Yeah.
not quite half, but
Yeah.
like about half the world lives on
And
less than
that's
five
a
dollars and fifty
and that's
cents.
a big improvement, right? Because
And that's a big improvement from the
wasn't it
$1 or
less
two
just
dollars a
not too
day.
long? Yeah, like maybe
Yeah,
2012 or something. It was probably in the $2 category.
yeah, exactly. So and like some also $5.50 doesn't go as far as it used to.
Sure. That's
Um,
a good point.
but anyways, like the economic incentive for these countries to do local production,
Yeah.
local manufacturing, to industrialize as fast as possible,
Hmm.
and to leverage robotics and AI in doing that are going to be huge.
Right.
Once we solve the problems, I mean, we're getting closer with solving the hallucination problems. Like
Right.
the models are
With large
getting
language
better
models.
with large language models.
Yeah.
Like the models are getting better, they're getting cheaper, they're getting more prolific. Like you're able to rely on them more for just basic knowledge about important things.
Hmm.
Like I used to teach at Brown an appropriate technology course. It was for Barrett Hazeltine, who is like venerable professor at Brown.
Amazing.
And we would do things like how do you do a hydroelectric system? How do you do a biogas system, wind
Hmm.
system, solar water heater? I go into ChatGPT and I ask it things about those
It's
technologies,
remarkable.
and it knows.
Yeah.
Like that knowledge is in the model. Like it may not get the formulas right.
Sure.
You may have to like double check,
Yeah.
but like the basic principles, if you're starting from zero, if you're like I have a friend who became very famous for building a windmill.
Mm.
His name's William Kumkwamba.
Hmm.
And when he was a kid, he found a book in a library about building windmills. And he built a windmill in Malawi in
Did they
a
make a movie
village.
about
They
this?
made a movie
It
about
was
it. Yeah,
amazing. I
exactly.
loved it.
Exactly.
I
They
actually read the
took
book.
they took some liberties in the movie, but
Sure, I'm as they
anyways,
do.
as they do. But yeah, like gaining the William Kumkwamba level
Yeah.
of knowledge to build that windmill is totally possible for anyone in the world with AI right now.
Right.
And that is a game changer in terms of economic development globally.
So it fascinates me. I was listening to Hard Fork, the New York Times podcast, last week, or maybe it was the week before, rather, and they touched on the fact that, like, I think it costs something around $300 billion to develop the interstate system adjusted for inflation in the United States. And one of the things that sort of struck me is like the absolute extreme amount of capital that we are throwing at building this capability. And one, I would love to get your reaction in terms of how I think what you're pointing at is it's really enabling a lot of people all over the world to get a leg up and to be really creative. And then two, do you think that at least in the short term that's money well spent, or there's some problems there?
I think in the short term it is money well spent. The vibe coding alone,
Mm-hmm.
like make it, I mean, there's a lot of waste. Like, I mean,
Of
nobody
course.
needs the vibe coded app for like, I don't know, like picking your YouTube music selections or whatever. Like, I mean, well, like there's a lot
Hot
of
dog, not hot dog.
yeah, exactly. But like there are a lot of vibe coded apps that are like okay, that's superfluous. But I feel like the ability to develop code bases that are doing really interesting things
Yeah.
with vibe coding, and then obviously checking for AI slop and like typo squatting from malware and all that. That's very important if you're vibe coding.
Uh-huh.
Check for your malware typo squatting
Yeah.
because like that's a serious problem with vibe coding.
Well, actually,
But
let me just pause. Can you just say what typo squatting is?
so typo squatting is where the malware provider takes a popular package and then alters the name a little bit so it sounds pretty reasonable
Mm-hmm.
and creates a replica of that popular package but includes malware.
Right.
And then the AI, which has been trained, hallucinates the fake name
Mm-hmm.
and downloads the package, and your software works great, but you've got malware.
Yeah.
And that it's a big problem for a lot of these vibe coders. Like they don't have the CS background to be able to check for stuff
Right.
like that. And there are tools for it, but not all of them are. I mean, a lot of the vibe coders, they're new.
Yeah,
They're
and the arms race continues with
and the arms race
developing
on
software.
cyber continues. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a whole nother
Right.
kettle of fish. Like I'm very concerned we're gonna have an AI worm
Yeah.
similar to the Maersk worm. So NotPetya was the Maersk worm. It took down the shipping giant Maersk in a couple hours.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna have something that across the entire internet in the not too distant future. But
Yeah.
that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, basically, like I feel like this investment in infrastructure is enabling the development of new code that's going to go into new systems. And the one thing that it doesn't have yet that I'm very excited for the future producing is the ability to do CAD well. So like
Mm-hmm.
right now, I know
For and
Autodesk.
just yeah, so it's funny. We just talked to my friend who works at Autodesk last week.
Oh, great,
So
great.
this is spot on, and I have a bunch of friends in architecture as well
Yeah,
that have been
yeah. So
talking to me
so
a lot about this.
so like Autodesk, Dassault Systems, like
Mm-hmm.
SolidWorks, PTC, which is Onshape, like all of them are working on this.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got the large databases to be able to like do this well. But basically like
Huge
right now,
databases of tech, architectural, and manufacturing
product
designs.
manufacturing designs that are
Exactly,
parameterized that have like
millions of
exact
designs. Yeah.
dimensions. Yeah, and like basically right now we don't have the model where I can say, "Hey, I need a widget for my robot.
Right.
Make me the widget."
Right.
And that's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And when we get that along with the vibe coding, along with like the PCB design, and we get like the local manufacturing spinning up for being able to like locally make the PCBs and prototype them,
PCBs being
printed circuit
yeah.
boards.
Sorry, I just
Yeah.
want to make sure that
Yeah, with the pick and place, and not the pollutants, the PCBs, but yeah, but basically like we're going to enter this cycle of creation that gets so fast where people are going to vibe code new electronics.
right.
They're going to vibe code new robots. They're going to vibe code new cars.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to vibe code, like, they're going to speak into existence with text the thing that they want. And the AI will help realize that, which
Yeah,
is freaking magic.
it's wild.
Like that is going to transform the world, and I think that is worth this investment. Even if we don't end up using these GPUs in 10 years,
Yeah.
that is worth this investment in the ENIAC level compute.
Well, and they don't really have that lifespan anyway, right?
Yeah,
So we're
exactly. I
gonna have
mean,
to reinvest
we're gonna
somehow.
have to reinvest. Exactly. But I mean, that's the thing. Like, everybody talks about investment. Everybody talks about like AI changing the jobs landscape, like
Mm-hmm.
future work. I mean, and this is scary stuff for some people these days, but like we're headed towards a post-monetary economy, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
Like money.
I feel like to me at this point, it looks like a ball rolling down a hill.
Yeah, I mean, it's just AI and robots are going to be able to do any mental or physical task that a human can do better than a human in not that distant a future. So the question is, will there be anywhere where anyone except for maybe a few like exceptional humans, high performing level, like
Mm-hmm.
intellectual Olympians
Yeah.
are going to be able to do anything where they can actually have economic value?
Right.
That we are going to have to rethink our economic systems. Things like universal basic income might be like a kind of
Bridge.
transitionary approach.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think we're headed towards Star Trek,
Yeah.
where like
Well,
they don't even have money anymore.
yeah. Well, and thinking about universal basic income, this is something you were talking about years ago, and I'm curious, like, is that something that you think is going to be still valuable, viable, etc. If we do
I,
enter sort of a massive
so
shift in jobs?
I think it is going to be necessary because there are alternatives. I mean, there are like I've been in plenty of countries where you've got a very small rich minority
Hmm.
that has monopolies on the grocery store, the gas station, etc.
Yeah.
And then you've got an extremely poor country where everybody's making a dollar or two a day.
Hmm.
Like I've been in those countries before,
Hmm.
and that is a potential outcome for the entire globe.
Yeah.
Okay. But and then that needs to be suppressed with like massive physical force and authoritarianism.
Right.
Like you don't get people striking and then wage increases. You get people striking and then people beating
Massive,
rioters.
massive crackdowns.
Massive
Yeah.
crackdowns,
Right.
exactly. Like so that is a direction that we can go, and that is the very dystopian direction. But the alternative direction we can go is we can say, hey, why not just give people money?
Right.
Like like we can have AI regulate the inflation,
Hmm.
regulate the monetary supply, okay? And you can do it in a tax and dividend fashion. Like
Hmm.
Alaska's got the Alaska dividend,
Yeah. I was thinking about
where
Alaska as well when you were talking about this.
yeah, where they tax a specific thing and it goes straight out to the people.
Hmm.
There's no there's not a big government bureaucracy about who gets it and who doesn't.
Right.
Everybody gets it. It's
Right.
super simple.
Right.
Like and I think like if you do that, if you get rid of the bureaucracy and the means testing or whatever, just say everybody gets $500, everybody gets $1,000. What you're going to find is that the people who are really hurting are no longer on the streets, are no longer like just struggling to get by to keep themselves off the streets.
Hmm.
The people who are super rich don't even notice it.
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
it's just like an extra dinner out at like some fancy
Oh
restaurant.
gosh, I know.
Like I mean that's what it is.
I
Like I
know.
mean we've got these moral misgivings about people getting money for free for no
Yeah.
labor, but like we got to get over the fact that like we're not going to be able to do things that compete with robots or AI for like hourly wages, so labor
Right.
is meaningless. Right now, we don't necessarily, I mean, we may make fun of like somebody who has a trust fund, but we don't necessarily say
Judge them
like
in the same way.
judge them in the same way. Like
Yeah.
say, yeah, you're
It
getting
might be
passive
a
income.
joke, but it's not like we're not like angry at them for
We're
having
not angry at
success
the
or having
people.
family success.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Like we're just like, okay, yeah, you get money and it seems like you can spend it. Like
Right.
and like I think that
Let's go
that is the
surfing.
shift. That is the shift that is healthy for society,
Right.
is to like give people the means to be consumers and make choices in the society and then let that drive the economy.
Yeah.
And that's how like we survive the AI and robot job apocalypse. But that takes a huge social and political mindset shift,
Yeah.
which I don't know if we're going to do.
Yeah, it's a good question. And so, one of the things that stands out to me in that whole thing is taste. I think one of at least the near term benefits of people being in the loop is there's a certain aesthetic that we're curating. And I think that's something that AI is not really that great at right now. And
Yeah,
so,
and
everything from directing AI to generating some creative material or content to actually producing your own original content. I think taste is something that humans really enjoy, like other humans' tastes. And
and taste making and
mhm,
like the whole. I mean,
that seems like an
you
economy that'll be around for a little while.
it will be around for a while.
Yeah.
And same with like the artisanal stuff. Like I mean like you look at people who have successful custom handcraft businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And they're generally selling to people who are in the top like 10%
Absolutely.
income bracket. Like what they're doing is they're following the taste making and then like making something that like fits within that niche, and
Their
maybe it's
aesthetic.
sustainable. The aesthetic,
Yeah.
exactly. I feel like aesthetics are like fashion and aesthetics for everything are going to be really important
Yeah. Agreed.
for human society flourishing. Um,
Such a good point.
and like the thing which I would like to say, just to go back to my previous point about the two options, like
Yeah.
the like huge income inequality option and the like universal basic income, like everybody's a consumer option. Like the thing that really got me, especially in Haiti, this really got me,
Mm-hmm.
is that any one of the families that was a millionaire family off of the grocery store that they had the monopoly on, or the gas stations that they had the monopoly on, or whatever
Mm-hmm.
hardware stores, or whatever it was.
Sure.
Ultimately, they were marginal businesses compared to the economic potential. Like, if they had just paid people more,
Right.
if they had just stabilized the security situation, the value of like the land and the beaches alone for
It's
like
tremendous
I mean, it's
for a
they
human
would have been
enjoyment.
billionaires.
Right.
Exactly. If they had focused on turning the country into Curacao
Mm-hmm.
or into like any of the other Caribbean tourist destinations, instead of focusing on trying to maximize the supermarket profits,
Right.
they could have become much, much wealthier. It's that lack of imagination and ambition about the future that I think really needs to change. Like people need to understand that like yeah, you can grab yours now,
Right.
but if you're not building the pie,
Everyone
like
suffers.
everyone suffers. Like with all the technological changes, there is the option for abundance. There is the option to build the pie and like make sure everybody's boats are lifted.
Well, and I think this is just making me realize how much of a role aesthetics play in the whole picture. Like, this is an
Exactly.
aesthetic choice. We can
Yeah.
decide how crappy our neighborhood looks, and that extends to a global scale. I was really touched by a lot of research I've been doing on Jane Goodall because she just passed away last Wednesday.
Yep.
And she had her own little podcast in the start of the pandemic, and it touched on her amazing work that she's done over the years. And one of the things that sort of stuck with me that touches a little bit on what we're talking about here around aesthetics is they were saying that if you just plant a few trees in impoverished neighborhoods, they automatically see a big spike and improvement in terms of more jobs and more people going and getting educated, less crime, and just creating more green space in those neighborhoods. And I think that touches a little bit on like recognizing the intrinsic value of your neighbors and the space around you and
Yeah.
making the aesthetic choice to improve those.
I mean, I grew up in New England. I grew up in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Uh-huh.
And like that is a concept that needs to come back. It's the Commonwealth. It's
The
not
Commonwealth.
like
Wow. Yeah, I
a
never thought about it in that terms.
yeah, it's not a concept of like, oh, you're gonna have a communist society where the state owns everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's the concept that like there are public spaces, there are public utilities, there are public resources that everybody shares, and you should foster and build those things to be able to help everybody in the society. And like I feel like oddly we're going a little bit more towards the abandonment of the Commonwealth, towards the like self-sufficiency, everybody's got their own kingdom.
Yeah, the
And
whole moment with the Trump administration is like really funny because it's like the most chintzy kind of like way of living.
well,
It
I
feels
mean,
insane.
I just I
Not
mean,
to, I don't want to
so
get distracted by
yeah,
that, but
yeah,
I
yeah,
think
but
it's like,
let's not get distracted by
yeah,
politics. But like, I feel like I'm a prepper. I've been through a bunch of disasters,
yeah,
so like I've learned to prepare for natural disaster and all of that. But there's this like kind of like rugged individualism in the United States
yeah,
where like everybody's trying to prepare for their own little like apocalypse community. Like
absolutely.
I've got my own little compound. And I just want to say, like, if you don't invest in the commons, what happens to those little compounds is you get to the point where you can never leave them and people start invading them
Yeah,
because the rest of the country has gone to hell.
right.
And like I mean, it really got me where I worked in Haiti. If you went up the hill from Port-au-Prince into Kenskoff,
Mm-hmm.
you had mansions.
Mm-hmm.
You had incredible like investment and wealth.
Prosperity. Yeah.
But like if those people wanted to see a movie or like go to the hospital or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
they flew to Miami.
Mm. Wow.
Like because those services had been diminished in the society they were in. And I feel like there's a real opportunity for us to, with robotics and AI, build a serious commonwealth,
Right.
a serious capability to help everybody realize kind of what they can do in the world that's best for them and for the rest of society. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
I think it just points to the fact that it's really important for us to focus on the fact that we need to cultivate our aesthetic and recognize it, that holding these things in common, and developing the commonwealth, like you said, is really going to be the path forward for us as a
yeah,
society.
as a society, I mean,
It's, if we want to be successful, we really do have to make conscious choices.
yeah, exactly. And I don't think that like again that means the elimination of property and the eliminate like I mean I also in addition to going to the Soviet Union, I went to Cuba, and in Cuba you had this really interesting problem of the commons where the commons was falling apart, and the commons was things like the staircase in an apartment building.
Mm,
Like you'd go into people's apartments and they owned the apartments, and the apartments were actually well maintained and kept up in some cases they didn't have the raw materials to do that because of the embargo and other reasons. The staircases would be falling apart
yeah,
because the staircases were owned by the state, and the state wasn't keeping track of every broken stair
right,
in every staircase. Like there's
right.
no way they could do that. So like I definitely see the failings in state ownership of everything. Like but I see the
Absolutely.
role of the state and the role of the private economic system as two different parts of a cohesive whole. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
This sort of gets back. I mean, I want to switch gears for a moment to
yeah,
interpretability. I think that there's a real, when you talk about economics or what people do with their time, I think understanding how this technology evolves is going to be so important. And
yeah.
it's going to require a human with human taste to be directing the process. And so I'm curious how you envision the public sector evolving to be more responsible. And that could involve a partnership of private and governmental organizations, but how you see it evolving to ensure that human taste is cared for and that we like what we've built.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to become a huge problem when we get to the point where AI is smarter than us.
Yeah, I know.
Like we really don't want a divergence of goals when AI becomes smarter. Because when AI becomes smarter, if there's a divergence of goals, and if we have not even, I mean, like who hasn't seen iRobot, the
I know.
Terminator? Like, I mean, like not even we have like a billion humanoid robots, but
And
like
just
if we have
point out
like
for a second that we're only
100 million.
2% different roughly than the great ape. So like
Yeah, yeah. I
that's
mean,
2%.
we're not gonna keep up, and
Right.
like our wetware is not designed. We have serious limitations when it comes to attention, short-term memory. Like
I'm
there are
sorry,
a
what
lot
did
of
you say?
we
I'm just kidding.
our wetware. Sorry. Yeah.
That was a bad joke.
Basically, attention, short-term memory, like we aren't going to be able to keep up with large-scale general intelligence.
Yeah.
So we better hope that we make large-scale general intelligence with our best interests in mind, so that it actually wants to share with us what it's doing, be transparent about it, and also respect certain conventions and frameworks that we put in place that preserve humanity's development as, I mean, almost as kind of like a heritage of the AI. Like it'd be as if like the entire world, the entire human population is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And the AI respects those laws. like that's the best we can hope for.
Right.
Like I don't think we want Minsky once had this quote in Life magazine. If we're lucky, the computers will keep us as pets.
I know.
It was something like that. We don't want to be pets.
We don't want to be pets.
We
do you think that there's any future where we build a super intelligence where that's not the case? Where, I mean, and assuming we're living, do you think it's safe to build super intelligence?
I think that it's foolish to try to rush to super intelligence in an arms race,
like we are.
I think that trying to rush to super intelligence in an arms race and throwing aside all the guardrails and the AI safety stuff for the sake of trying to
get there first,
China or wherever, to super intelligence, it's a risky game.
Yeah.
Because but also having narrow AI that's not super intelligent, that's misaligned with human survival, is also a risky game.
It is, yeah.
Like I feel like super intelligence at this point is really one of the paths that helps us avoid, if we can make aligned super intelligence, helps us avoid authoritarian AI and robotic genocide. Like, and that is something that's coming, and we have the technology right now for massive robotic weapons deployment.
Yeah.
To be able to eliminate large parts of the population. Like,
right.
I mean, like this is really kind of a production question, not a technology question. And like, the production volumes in China, like as I said, are significantly higher than the production volumes in the US. Like, China has the robots, China has the swarming drone capabilities, China has all the capabilities. Like, if they want to wipe out a section of the world, they could do it. And like, it's as concerning as nukes or chemical weapons. It's something that we need to regulate. But yeah, I feel like the way we avoid those weapons falling into the hands of homicidal maniacs is to make sure that we have really good AI helping to regulate. And like, the problem is Pandora's out of the box.
Right.
We have enough open
Llama's already released their open source models.
Exactly. Like, the models
everybody knows how it works.
The code's out there, the papers are out there.
Yeah.
Like, the genie is out.
Yeah. We're not going to put it back in.
Pandora's box is open. All the little beasties are flying away.
Right.
We're not gathering them up and putting them back in.
Yeah. No, we're not.
Looking forward, we need to look forward as to, I mean, just in some ways, the way we did with the nuclear arms race, we need to look forward to how do we make AI defense, but how do we make it with aligned goals? And so I mean, that's the tricky part.
It's tricky.
It's tricky. We made it through. I mean, to date, we made it through the development of nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
Which could destroy the world many times over.
Right.
And we had a lot of scares, but
right.
We've gotten to this point in society without having a full out all on nuclear war
Thank God.
across the entire globe, thankfully.
Yeah.
So like there is a chance that we can get through this phase.
Right.
Like it doesn't have to be doom and gloom. We can make the utopia.
Yeah.
We are going to have some struggles, and we gotta fight for a few things. So
Agreed. Back in 2020, I listened to a podcast you did. One of the things that you said is that you were afraid of a machine gun being strapped to a drone and being hunted down by a swarm of drones.
That was in my TEDx Dorigo talk. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So, well, I thought it's really interesting. And 2 years later, Russia invaded Ukraine. And there is a arms race with drones right now. And Vladimir Zelensky warned that increasingly artificial intelligence is being deployed into drone technology. And so you're somebody, I think, that doesn't believe that we're going to have robot overlords in the future, or at least has a strong belief that we can avoid that future. And tell me if that's wrong. How do you think about this stuff being deployed in a military capability? And, as an individual that finds it a little scary, what do you think individuals have in terms of the ability to protect themselves in a future where drones are very much a part of the military and a part of what can be deployed across the world?
So I will be clear that AI swarming drones are coming to every military on the face of the planet.
Right.
It is the new technology, and that at this point is pretty unavoidable. And I don't know if you saw I think it was 2017 Future of Life promo about slaughter bots.
I have not seen that.
Okay. For anyone who has not seen,
I don't know if I want to see that.
you should see it.
Okay.
It's a fictional film put out by the Future of Life, which is a nonprofit focused on existential threats. It basically kind of details where we're going with some of these swarming technologies. And
can you define swarming real quickly, just to make sure everybody understands?
Swarming, just so everybody understands, is when you have multi-agent autonomy with lots of drones. So
small drones, or does it matter?
So it doesn't matter. It can be small or large, but generally it's small drone. And generally we're talking like largest swarms that I've seen very successfully controlled are in the thousands, but it doesn't even need to be that many.
Mm-hmm.
There was a swarm attack on a Russian base in Syria, which I think had 30 to 50 small drones, and it destroyed lots of fighter jets. It overcame air defenses.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of technologies from microwave to lasers to kinetic interceptors to dogfighting even that are being developed against swarming drones, but the swarming drones are the new latest military technology that every military is trying to get a footing in,
right,
and be able to deploy rapidly. I mean, the U.S. has a program called Replicator, which is
that sounds
on
terrible. What a terrible idea that is.
Well, I mean, if you look at the latest calls for proposals by DoD in the U.S., the production volumes for U.S. suppliers are actually really low compared to what is being produced in China. I think it's on the orders of tens of thousands of UASs, and I mean, China's in the tens of millions.
Right.
So there's a big difference between what is able to be produced right now and what the perceived demand is. I do think that there is a path forward. And I think the thing that gives me hope in this is the convention on conventional weapons having the potential to add autonomous weaponry to that convention.
Right.
And start to regulate autonomous weaponry. And then the other hope is that we start to view this the same way we view chemical weapons.
Right.
As
a real horror. And
that is
real countries don't do this.
Don't do this. Exactly. And I mean, it goes beyond the country level. It's even down to the individual level.
Hmm. We need to
Every
have a real cultural revulsion to this type of technology being
exactly,
used in this capacity.
exactly. But like, I mean, everybody has in their kitchen
Yeah.
the raw materials needed to make chemical weapons,
Yeah.
but you don't see mass casualty events happening all over the world because people are making chemical weapons in their kitchen. People don't do that because the people who have the knowledge about how to do that are really aware that this is like a social norm,
Right.
that is like a prohibition, not just from a legal and regulatory framework, but from a societal framework.
Again, going back to aesthetics, it's just
And it's back to the
terrible.
aesthetics. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
And we need, I believe we need to do that with robotic weaponry before we have the World War One of robotic weaponry. Like
Yeah.
Ukraine, the robotic weaponry is being used, but this is kind of like before the massive scale use of it. The
It
massive
reminds
scale
me
use,
of aviation and
yeah,
use of artillery and blah blah blah. Yeah, World War
yeah.
One
So
is the analogy that comes up in my
World
mind all
War
the time.
One like was when the chemical weapons, the tanks, the machine gun,
Chemical
like
weapons. Yeah.
all of that started being used on a mass scale. And we realized in that like chemical weapons drew the line. Like they didn't ban machine guns
Hmm.
after World War One.
And chemical weapons, in terms of deaths, was substantially fewer than machine gun
The
and
machine gun,
artillery. Artillery
yeah,
killed so many, and
artillery, yeah.
disease, but
But it was
aesthetically, it was
so
abhorrent.
horrific.
Yeah.
Exactly, it was abhorrent. And like I feel like the concept of having an autonomous robot hunt you down and kill you is going to be as abhorrent as, because it does not sleep, it does not lose attention, it does not have moral qualms. It will just keep going until it runs out of battery and then it'll recharge and then it'll keep going again.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I said this to a friend of mine, and they showed a guy who had, this was years ago, built a drone and he attached a gun to it and then
he got
shot
in
a
trouble with the
target. He got
FAA
in so
actually.
much
He was down
trouble.
in Connecticut. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he got in so much trouble. And I was like, well, there's literally nothing to keep from someone who had the desire to attach a solar panel and a battery and a gun from creating an assassination bot. Obviously, that's proven to be true. We have bots in warfare right now, and there's a little bit of an arms race going on. Again, I think you're right that it's really a decision not to use this technology.
Yep.
And I
And
wonder at some of the cases where it ends up being used in bad ways. And I think some of these people probing some of the worst ways of using technology, if that does sort of create a reaction and almost an immune response in humanity to generate a different path and choose better things.
I think it's really gonna be something where society is going to have to react to a horrible event.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like we don't,
We don't have an embodied sense of the
we
negative implications yet.
until it
I'm
happens. And
sure
I mean
the
I look
Ukrainians
at,
feel differently, but
yeah, exactly. And but I look at like in the US the debate over gun control
mm-hmm.
and like mass shootings in schools. I mean, like, you're literally having children in schools and people in churches and like other
Mm-hmm.
like safe spaces that are supposed to be safe for people being destroyed by people who are malcontent with
Mm-hmm.
guns. And like that debate's been going on for at least my entire lifetime. When was Columbine?
In the
Like,
90s, late 90s, 99.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. So I mean, it's been a long time,
Yeah.
and I don't think things change unless you have something dramatic,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a terrible way that things are. I mean, I look at what happened to our laws and our society after 9/11, for better or for worse.
Mm-hmm.
And there were dramatic societal changes that took place after 9/11.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I gave a talk to DoD folks about autonomous sniper stations and small UAS in
Mm-hmm.
like 2018. And basically in that talk, I was pretty clear that like this was a weekend hackathon project for the right
Yeah.
people.
Right.
And it's only become more of a weekend hackathon project
Right.
for the
It's
regular.
all we have so much in a really positive way. We have so much code out there that's available to everyone
So much code,
that,
so
you
many
know,
CAD files, like
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
And we have 3D printers. And again, this is not a case where we can put the beast back in Pandora's box, but I do think it creates a moment where we really need to look towards our better angels, which
Yep.
I would say, you tell me if this is wrong, that you're someone who has a pretty sober but optimistic view for the future. Is that an accurate
Yeah,
statement?
I mean, I think we are entering a hard time
Yeah, agreed.
globally. Like there's a lot of stuff happening globally in geopolitics that is suggesting that there might be more conflict than
Hmm.
there has been in the past. But I am very hopeful that we are going to, with the help of robots and AI, find some solutions to some of the serious challenges that we're facing
Right.
as people. And I feel like there are models out
Big P
there.
people.
What?
Big P people.
Big P people. Yeah, yeah. But I feel like there are models out there that we can look to kind of help guide us into better futures.
Yeah. And I've been thinking a lot about the big picture since the death of Jane Goodall. And she was a strong believer in collaboration rather than sort of aggression, which I feel like we're seeing a lot of aggressive tactics right now. You know, honestly, Americans feel a little bit unplugged from hope right now. So I guess sort of what anecdotes of hope that you can share or you think of that can point to a brighter future with collaboration?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that collaboration is a human superpower. I mean, you look at what we can do in different domains, whether it be groups of military soldiers moving a boat onto shore,
Yeah.
or like the Amish doing a barn raising
In a day.
in a
Yeah.
day. Exactly. Like, I mean, when we get together with common cause,
Mhm.
there are just amazing results that can happen, and it's only going to be accelerated by AI and robotics. But
Yeah.
when you pose the Jane Goodall, what's a good model
Hmm.
for hope? And I thought about that for a while, and it came back to a place I read about ages ago, back in the 90s,
Hmm.
that I ended up. I was trying to visit in 2001, but when I went to visit it, I actually was at the border and I met a guy who had just been released from being kidnapped.
Mm.
And we went to a bar and he talked me out of going into Colombia because he had literally just been kidnapped by the Farc in Colombia.
Wow.
The community that I'm thinking of, and I don't know if they're still running because they may have subsided a little bit economically,
Hmm.
but there's a book written about them called Gaviotas is the name of the
Hmm.
community. And it's in Colombia, it's in the plains, though it's no longer plains. And it started out as a sustainable intentional community. Okay, so they're trying to make an eco community that could live off the grid,
Wow.
be sustainable.
Hmm.
And they did a few things that are very interesting. One, they built a hospital,
Hmm.
and the hospital became a center for neutrality in what during the 80s was known as the Dirty War
Wow.
between the government and the Farc.
Right.
And they treated government troops, they treated the Farc in that hospital. Everybody could come in,
Mm.
everybody who had gunshot could get the
Hmm.
gunshot dealt with. They had to leave their guns
Hmm.
outside of the perimeter, and they knew that it was a neutral, safe space.
Wow.
And they were in a very hard time where neutrality was a very hard thing.
Hmm.
And sometimes neutrality is not the answer.
Sure.
In that case, for them, it was the way they got through.
Yeah.
But like sometimes, like I worked in Guatemala. I read through the UN reports after the civil war in Guatemala.
Mm.
The UN documented 90% plus of the atrocities committed in the Guatemalan Civil War were committed on the government side.
Wow.
Okay, so like that's a situation where neutrality becomes very hard
Right. To
to
stomach.
maintain,
Yeah.
to stomach, exactly. But they during this time of conflict, during this time of like serious contention among people, they created a safe space. And they created a space that was economically productive.
Mm-hmm.
They planted Caribbean pines
Mm.
around the village, and they harvested the Caribbean pines for sap, and they actually used that as an industrial product that they could ship out and make money with. And this was actually successful until the 2000s
Mm.
when China started producing tons of Caribbean pine sap
Mm.
and flooded the Colombian market
Wow.
with Caribbean pine sap, and that fell away
Mm-hmm.
as a way of making money. But the thing which is truly amazing about all of these Caribbean pines they planted was either from seeds that were already there or from seeds that are in bird droppings or
Uh-huh.
whatever. Rainforest started growing up in the shade of the pines.
Wow.
And this place that was plains
Wow.
became an ecological habitat of rainforest surrounded by Caribbean pine.
Wow. Gorgeous.
And they were focused as stewards of the land,
Mm-hmm.
but they didn't over manage the land. Like they let the rainforest grow up. They didn't just chop down those plants
Wow.
in the Caribbean pine plantation when they were starting to grow. So there was a sense of kind of like returning to a natural ecosystem. I feel like with robotics, with AI, we have an opportunity to start to build small scale, circular,
Mm-hmm.
ecologically friendly, or at least like sustainable communities that can thrive
Yeah.
and provide models for the rest of the world. Because right now, I have to say, if we don't address the ecological degradation problems, they may not be biting us
Mm-hmm.
in this generation. We may do okay, but by 2150,
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be bad. Like already it's bad. I mean, already like you have fires unlike we have seen historically,
Well,
really ever.
what
Like,
I love about that story is a really beautiful anecdote, and I think it really represents a lot of what Jane Goodall stood for.
that's
And
true.
I think also she really emphasized the need for communication across divide
Yeah.
and re-greening places, saving habitat, but also saving humanity because one of the ways to save the world is to save humanity.
Yeah,
And
I mean, otherwise we're gonna burn it
we're going to
down.
burn it
So
down.
yeah,
So I love that example. And that's just a tremendous perspective to have for an
I think
opportunity for us to make things work for humans, but make it also work for the planet.
yeah, and I think just to close out here, to add one last statement,
Oh,
like
great.
I think that if we don't reach across divides, if we don't talk to our fellow humans about what futures are possible,
Mm-hmm.
we are going to lose our chance to create those futures.
Yeah.
Because it's only by reaching out to people and showing them that there are different ways of doing
Yeah.
things and we can have a different future that we can actually see those futures enacted in reality. So,
What I love about this is what we're really talking about is a global culture and a global vision because we all, like nuclear arms, need to understand that we need to use this technology really responsibly.
I would 100% agree with that.
Awesome. Well, Peter Haas, this has been such an amazing conversation, and I hope we have lots more in the future. Thank you so much for joining the Smolder podcast.
Thank you for having me.